Okay, so have you ever heard about a huge company that racks up all this debt and somehow the owners just walk away clean? It's this wild legal idea, almost like a magic trick, where a business, just a stack of papers really, becomes its own person. We're going to break down exactly how that works. I mean, really think about that for a second. You could start a company, it could fail spectacularly and owe tons of money, but you personally might not be on the hook for any of it. How is that even possible? Well, it's not actual magic, but it is a kind of legal magic, and it all starts with the government. And that brings us to the first big idea. You can't just declare you're a corporation. It's not a right you're born with. It's actually a special privilege. You could even call it a gift that the state has to grant you. The legal thinking behind this is called the concession theory. The state literally concedes to create this artificial being. Without that official charter, that certificate of incorporation, you don't have a corporation. You've just got a group of people working together. And believe me, getting this wrong has very real consequences. There was this case, International Express, where a football group signed a contract before they were officially registered as a corporation. Well, when they couldn't pay a debt, the court basically said, sorry, this federation doesn't legally exist yet. And the guy who signed the contract, yeah, he had to pay the whole thing out of his own pocket. The lesson is simple. You have to follow the rules, or there is no protection. So why go through all this paperwork in the first place? Well, you do it for the superpower. The minute the government breathes life into your corporation, it also hands you this incredibly powerful shield, a shield that separates the business from you, the owner. And this, right here, might be the single most important rule in all of corporate law. The company is one person. The stockholder is another. Legally, financially, they are completely separate. So here's how that shield actually works. Let's say the company owes a bunch of money. Creditors can absolutely go after the company's assets, its bank accounts, its equipment, whatever. But they can't touch the owner's personal stuff. Your house, your car, your savings, all of that is safe and sound behind the corporate shield. But what happens if that shield is used for, sketchy reasons, to hide fraud or to just plain cheat people? Well, the law has a countermove for that. It's a way to break the shield, and it has this amazing name, piercing the corporate veil. And this is where things get really interesting. See, courts don't take this lightly. That shield is supposed to be strong, but it's not invincible. So what does it actually take? How do you convince a judge to smash right through that legal wall? It really boils down to this three-part test from a case called Concept Builders. First, you have to show complete domination. The owner isn't just guiding the company, they're a puppeteer, and the company has no mind of its own. Second, you have to prove that control was used for fraud or something illegal. And third, you have to show that someone actually got hurt financially because of it, that there was real harm. Now, this is a really important point that comes out of the Retrato case. A lot of people think if you own all the stock, you are the company. But that's not true. You could own 100% of the stock and still be protected. What the court really cares about is your behavior. Are you treating the company like a separate legal being, or are you treating it like your own personal piggy bank? So here's a classic example of that fraud piece from the Times Transportation case. Imagine a company says, oh, we're broke, and shuts down to avoid paying its workers. But then, the very next day, a new company opens up with the same owners, same trucks, same address. The courts see right through that. They call it a runaway shop, and they will absolutely pierce that veil to make the owners pay what they owe their employees. And here's another one you see a lot, like in the Villeray Transit case. It's called the alter ego theory. This is when the owner just completely ignores the separation. They're using the company credit card for groceries, for family vacations, you name it. A court will look at that and say, nope, this corporation is a total sham. It's just a business conduit for the owner. And then, boom, they break the shield. So we've seen how an owner's bad behavior can land them in hot water. And that brings up a really key part of how corporations are built, the difference between the people who own it and the people who manage it. It's a critical distinction because they're often not the same people at all. The easiest way to think about it is like this. The stockholders are the owners. Their main power is voting on the big picture stuff, like electing the board of directors. The board, on the other hand, they're the managers. They handle the day-to-day operations, set the strategy, and make sure everything is running the way it should. Their main duty is to the corporation itself. All right, so we've spent a lot of time talking about how the shield protects the owner's money from the company's debts. But what about the money inside the company? Well, there are strict rules for that too, and they're all about protecting the people the company owes money to, its creditors.
This idea is called the trust fund doctrine, and it's so important. It says that the initial money used to start and run the company, that capital stock, isn't just a slush fund for the owners to dip into whenever they want. The law sees that money as a trust fund, held specifically to make sure that the company's creditors can get paid what they're owed.
So what does that mean in the real world? It means a company can't just decide to give its starting capital back to the owners. Any payouts to shareholders, like dividends, have to come from actual profits, from the money the company has earned. You can't just raid that initial piggy bank, because that capital is locked in to make sure the company can always pay its bills. And that really brings us back to the central tension of this whole idea. On one hand, the corporate shield is what fuels our economy. It lets people take huge risks, create amazing things, and innovate without betting their entire personal lives. But on the other hand, it can also become a veil to hide behind. And so the constant challenge for the law is, where exactly do we draw that line?